bang, 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 hey. Silent night, holy night. All is calm, all is bright.
Yeah, nothing silent about India's beating of the West Indies women in the first one-day international on Sunday. Yes, we're starting this week's edition of the SportsMax Zone with cricket. The struggles of the West Indies women with the bat against India continued as they lost the first ODI carried live on SportsMax from Gujarat on Sunday morning Caribbean time. Ziya James delivered an exceptional performance though with the ball for the visitors, but it was not enough to inspire a win. Gerard Morrissetti tells us more in this recap.
Different format, same script. West Indies skipper Hayley Matthews winning the toss and fielding against India, looking to change their fortunes in this first women's one-day international in Vadodara. Smriti Mandana had a new opening partner in debutant Pratika Rawal, and it seemed like a match made in heaven even though the Windies was let down by their fielding. The pair put on 110 for the first wicket, with Rawal getting 40 of 69 deliveries, becoming the 7th batter to share a century stand with Mandana. The left-hander continued to enjoy the Windies bowling, passing her 4th consecutive half-century of the tour across both formats. However, she fell 9 runs short of a 10th women's ODI ton, joining, guess who? Stefani Taylor for the most dismissals in the nervous 90s, 4 in WODIs. Mandana's wicket at 160 for 2 was the first of what would be a diamond-in-the-rough performance from left-arm spinner Ziya James. The St. Lucian bowled 8 overs at an economy rate of 5.62, the only Windies bowler to go on the 6 against an aggressive India lineup that saw the entire top 6 score 20, 3 of them over 40. The 20-year-old did her damage at the death with a double strike in over 48 before claiming 2 more wickets in the final over to register her maiden fifer, 5 for 45, as India piled up 314 for 9 off their 50 overs. West Indies' pursuit of 315 for victory was disastrous from the very first ball when Kiana Joseph was run out, hobbling to the striker's end. Things got worse when skipper Hayley Matthews was removed on review by player of the match Renuka Singh, also for a duck, leaving the Windies 3 for 2 in the 3rd over. And Singh continued to be a thorn for the Windies batters who had no answer for her induckers, Deandra Dottin among them, well set up before being bowled for 8. The right-arm medium-fast bowler eventually bagging 5 for 29.
In the air, and Joe, what a catch!
Afi Fletcher, the top scorer with 24 not out, as the Windies were dismissed in 26.2 overs for 103 to give India the 211-run win, their 2nd highest margin in ODIs.
Yeah, we probably just weren't quite on the mark today. Obviously, all 3 facets of the game, really, and yeah, it's not the brand or the style of cricket we want to be playing, so we'll definitely need to find a way to improve going forward.
The way Smithy is batting, that's something outstanding to watch, because the way she is batting, it's looking really easy, but trust me, it's not easy the way she is looking. And Renuka's bowling's been amazing for from so many years, but today was a special 5 wickets haul for her, and we all are very happy for that. And fielding is something we have been talking from so many years, but good to see that during last series and today the way we are fielding, really happy with the approach.
Yeah, disappointing result for the West Indies women. Let's get the thoughts of cricket commentator Nikhil Uttamchandani. Nikhil, welcome to the SportsMax Zone on this wonderful day. Just how disappointing were the West Indies women on Sunday?
Yeah, Ricardo, it was lackluster, if I can use that word. I think there's a trend for Shane Dietz and his team, and it is when they begin series. If I think about the T20 series, this one, the way this began the World Cup against South Africa, obviously they were able to find a better rhythm and do, I think, the simple things well, the controllables well, as they went deep in that World Cup and got to the semi-finals. But even as far back as the Australia series, the ODIs last year, it seems like the first game of the series, there's an inability to switch on. There's an inability to be that disciplined and that intense team that is required to especially beat a side that you think is better than you on paper, but also in home conditions. So I think obviously the bowling from a consistency perspective was disappointing, but the most disappointing aspect for me was the fielding. And I think given how the way they fielded in the second and third T20I compared to the first T20I, it looked like a repeat of similar in this 50-over series.
Yeah, and since you go to the fielding performance, and I was thinking about it, Nikhil, and just wondering what's happening, because it's not just the women. We've been seeing it with the men as well in the test format, in the T20 format, in the 50-over format as well, especially with the catching. I mean, in recent months, it could go back longer, but at least to me, in recent months, I mean, there seems to have been a sharp decline in the quality of catching from Caribbean teams, both on the men's and women's sides.
Yeah, Ricardo, maybe it's just a case of players needing to take a bit more responsibility in individual games. Look, I've been around the men's team for a lot of time this year, and I can tell you they put in the work. I mean, you talk about the test team, they take close to 50 slip catches a day. Although we see some catches go down in the white ball formats, head coach, Darren Sammy is quite big on fielding, so they always begin every practice session with a fielding drill. So they are doing the work. I think maybe from a personnel perspective, they can do a bit more when they have their own time. And look, I understand, obviously, the big facets of the game is the batting and bowling. So it's easy for the fielding to be forgotten. But you look at so many examples in both the men and women's formats, and you see how much fielding can cost you. I mean, Pratika Rawal, who was dropped on 3, obviously she went on to make 40, and I thought she played such a significant role in complementing Smriti Mandana, in taking pressure off of her in that initial power play. And even after it, from between overs 10 and 20, I thought her importance was paramount. So if they had got that wicket early, who knows? But yeah, it was always disappointing, because those are things that they can control, and those are things that we assume they work hard on.
Yeah, very disappointing indeed. After Fletcher putting a catch down, Shemaine Campbell behind the stumps had taken one, but it was given not out, and the West Indies women did not review. There was a close run-out opportunity as well, which was not taken. So a lot of opportunities for the West Indies to get Raw's wicket, and it did not happen. I want you to talk quickly about Smriti Mandana, because she's now scored 4 half-centuries in the 4 innings she has played this series, counting, of course, the T20 internationals as well. And just talk about what makes her so good, and why are the West Indies bowlers finding it so difficult to dismiss her?
Yeah, I looked at her record today, Ricardo. I couldn't believe it. I'm averaging 75 in 7 ODIs against the West Indies, 200s and 250s. She could have easily had another 100 in this innings. I think the one thing that makes her stand out from an Indian cricket perspective is the amount of runs she scores in front of square. You see Jemmy Rodriguez and so many other Indian players have the ability to sweep the ball and play fine, but she's just got power, and that ability to hit the ball in the V, especially where she bats the majority of time in the power play, I think it really kickstarts her innings. And then, of course, once she gets going, she then can play the sweeps, as we just saw there. She can then attack you in the middle overs with her game square of the wicket. So I think it's a really all-round approach from her. And the biggest thing that I think she's found in her game is just a better balance. Balancing the power as well as being able to come off the accelerator in the middle overs and then step it up again. She understands the importance of her role. I think she plays a similar role to how Hayley Matthews is viewed in the West Indies team. And she's fully embraced that role and pressure that comes with it, and I think it's made her better.
Yeah, Nikhil, this loss was the heaviest ever runs defeat suffered by a West Indies women's team to India. So it was crushing, not the best way to start a series, of course. It's clear to me that player for player, India appears to be the better team. How can the West Indies rebound from this first match loss to finish off the season with some pride?
I think the operative word for me, Lance, is patience. I look at the bowling effort. It was a lot of searching, which you understand. And look, I want to be very clear about something. This is the first one-day international since June of this year. You look at some of the personnel. Deandra Dottin hasn't played an ODI in 2 years. So I fully understand how the T20 tendencies, remember this was a World Cup year, I can fully understand why the T20 tendencies are coming and creeping into the women's game. The 50 over the Super 50 Cup that we play once a year, it's not an extensive amount of matches. So often players are not able to acclimatize to the format, I think, enough. And even you look at the bowling with the searching, but also I look at the batting, the shot selection of the top 5, it was aggressive, and you understand probably that they were chasing 300. They had to get going earlier. But when I think to the Pakistan series they won in April this year, it was the batting that scored 250 plus a couple of times. The way that they structured the innings, and obviously I know people will say Hayley Matthews got 200s, but the others stepped up and contributed as well. Shemaine Campbell got some scores, Chanel Henry, who didn't play the last game, and Stefani Taylor. So I think it's about structuring the innings, but understanding that there's a lot more time than a T20 game to actually occupy the crease.
Yeah, I'm looking off the pitch itself and the camera shots, looking at Coach Shane Dietz at various points during the game. He looked defeated, and it's obvious that he has a whole lot of work to do, Nikhil.
Yeah, I think this, Lance, obviously is our lesser of the two formats, and I want to see it start at the regional level. I was doing some research today and I looked back at the Super 50 Cup scores, and 200 plus totals are so rare. 250 is rare. I think Barbados was the only team to get over 300 against the Windward Islands when Kishon Knight got 144 this year. But I think we have to create an environment to support run scoring and get players in a habit of scoring big runs at the regional level, so that when it comes to going and traveling to places like India, especially in the 50 over format, even if they're not able to get to 300, that sort of tendency to bat a full 50 overs against quality bowling, because India are one of the best, and you keep seeing the new talent they bring through, continues to come to the biggest stage and get wickets. Against the better bowling attacks, how can you sustain that pressure and then be able to score when Hayley Matthews doesn't come off and get 100? I think that, for me, is the biggest thing, and it has to start at the regional level here in the Caribbean.
Yeah, and I remember talking to you a couple of weeks ago, Nikhil, and I did suggest, and I like the body language of Zayda James. I think she's beginning to grow in confidence and beginning to understand the level of this of the international game that she's now a part of. I know that, you know, a 5-wicket haul on Sunday is just a one performance, and she will have to repeat these kind of performances and sustain them if she wants to be successful internationally. But how impressed were you with her bowling on Sunday, and how far do you think she can go?
I think we have a star in the making. It's early to say that. I know she's only 20 years old, but what I see in the way she carries herself on the cricket field with both bat and ball, Lance, I think what she has shown us, and it's a rarity, but the propensity to bowl well under pressure. She bowls the power play overs in the T20 format, as we saw at the World Cup. We saw it briefly in the T20s of this series. And then she's bowling 3 of the last 5 overs in the 50 over format. I mean, the West Indies were probably at their best in the last 5, where they held India to 41 runs and took 4 wickets. And she bowled 3 of the overs. So I loved how she reacted to the battles, knowing that Smriti Mandana would come at her, trying to be innovative, as well as Jimmy Rodriguez. I thought she reacted really well. And for me, that's a big plus. And look, she's been around for a long time, but people forget she's 20 years old. And she's already got 33 matches under her belt internationally. So I think this experience of her playing in these foreign conditions, rubbing shoulders with many greats and future greats, and also Hayley Matthews and the senior players, is only going to do well for her. And I'm still hoping for the batting. I saw her play a sweep that went for 4 in that game. I really hope, along with her bowling, she can elevate her batting maybe in a couple of years' time to be able to be the next West Indies number 4 or 5, who can control things in that middle order and take up the mantle of scoring from Hayley Matthews.
Yeah, a couple of very quick ones here, Nikhil, 20 seconds each. First, I want a quick comment on the dismissal of Kiana Joseph.
Ricardo, Kiana Joseph has all the ability. I think the next step of her career to become a star in the women's cricket realm is her fitness. And that dismissal was, I mean, a true highlight of that. And I hope it's a lesson for her going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Chanel Henry, any word on why she was not in the 11? Because I'm a massive fan of Chanel Henry and what she can do for this West Indies women's setup.
Yeah, I'm assuming, I think they've had a bug going around the team because Aliyah Aline was also sick. You could hear her coughing during the game as well. But I do believe if she was at full fitness, she would have played in the first 11.
Yeah, very much. Well, let's hope that she will be well enough to play in the second ODI, which will be tomorrow. It will be live on SportsMax, of course. Nikhil, we'll chat to you, I'm sure, following that one. Take care.
Merry Christmas, Ricardo.
All right. Hey, save that for tomorrow, man. Christmas Eve, you're early. Oh, hold it, bro.
Seeing what you're getting me on.
Hold it, man. All right, yeah, it's going to be 3 a.m. for Eastern Caribbean time. That second one-day international between the West Indies women and India women. Yeah, and they are in Gujarat for that one, yeah? Stay with us. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone.